It's a really good trivia question from sportsNOLA.com, and why not? sportsNOLA.com is the best. And here's a great question. New Orleans native Peyton Manning will start at quarterback for the Broncos in Super Bowl 50. How many times has a Louisiana native been the starting quarterback in the Super Bowl? Is it the unlucky lucky number? Let's find out. Yes, it is.
13.
Got it. 13. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Got every single one of them. Thank you very much. I'll take credit.
Yeah.
Send me the check in the mail.
Send you the bill.
And I'll be happy. It's all good. It's a good list of guys, and it speaks volumes about the quarterback play in Louisiana over the years. And there's quite a few guys that were really good quarterbacks from Louisiana who never got to quarterback a team in the Super Bowl. There are some good quarterbacks in Louisiana high school football, too. Unfortunately, many of them won't compete with each other in the playoffs for years to come, and that will be the case as well in basketball, softball, and baseball as a result of a big principal vote this past Friday by the LHSAA principal members, which leads to our hot seat segment where we put Brian Anthony Walsh on the hot seat with this topic: should private schools form their own association, separate and apart from the LHSAA, as a result of the split vote now in 4 different sports? Brian, as a high school coach, the floor is most certainly yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. As always, this is a very provocative hot seat question and very timely also. You know, I was disappointed to see the way that the vote went down up in Baton Rouge on Friday with the principals for this very reason. And I know there's a parliamentary procedure that is in place here, and Brian Lejeune, a superintendent for Jefferson Davis Schools, oversees that, is considered the parliamentarian. And he is the one that determined the five proposals, the order in which they went. And when the first proposal passed, as it was this one, where they added 3 or 4 different minor sports, if you will, not necessarily minor sports, but basketball, baseball, softball, then that made every further proposal moot. And I was sorry to see that happen, but that's the way it works. I am definitely against the private association forming its own classification, if you will, or pulling away from the LHSA. And here's why. Kenny can speak to this much more eloquently than I can, but I do have a very gut feeling about this, and here it is. It's that we have enough problems in Louisiana that for us to split up a long-time association because people can't get on the same side, we're talking about, what, 300 schools? And I know that there's political and socio-economic issues here that have divided the association in addition to this state. But it's my feeling is that I would rather give the new commissioner, Mr. Bonide, adequate time to consider other elements to come into play here, to try to persuade the member principals to keep and make this the strong organization that it once was and that it can still become, as opposed to force a private sector to split away from the association. I was hoping that there would be 5 classifications and a super class, and I still think that that's the way to go, but all under one umbrella, okay? And I'll tell you this, and Kenny can speak to it much better than I can. If it doesn't happen, there will be a split, and I think that'll be bad for this state and the high school jurisdiction.
Ricky, as the parent of a student athlete that just played high school ball here on the West Bank, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's more like private school and public school. They trying to keep them apart, and they feel like the public school got a lot more students and stuff going than the private school, so they feel like they got an advantage over the sports probably, than the private school. So I guess they don't want those guys to get hurt. That seems like what they're looking at, more the physical part. But I just see like if you want to get the best out of the best, you have a class where everybody play, but they're not going to do that.
No, it's tough, and part of the reason for this, for further discussion of this, is that to have football championship, this is about football, in my opinion. To have 2 weekends of football championships spread out It's a very cost exorbitant measure for the LHSAA. That is one reason behind this. There's no reason why this thing can't be condensed to one weekend and have it be 5 and 1, the super class, if that's where people want to go. And I'm with you, Ricky. It's more than just simple private sector type of thing. It's as much public schools are having trouble. And then the last thing, the little caveat that I'm going to throw in here and let Ken give it to Ken, is that look, the Catholic leagues in this area, or the Catholic teams in this area, the parochial, the private schools, they can't get on the same page. So what makes you think that if they form their own classification, they're going to be able to come to some one resolution? So look, my feeling is that get it together, keep it under one umbrella. If you want to go to a super class, that's fine, but make it all under the LHSA umbrella.
These are all good points that you guys have made, and this is an ongoing scenario. The question was, should they split off and form their own organization? The answer to the question is maybe. It's not yes and it's not no. And the answer maybe is predicated on what happens over the next 6 months to see what's going to transpire. As an example, the votes coming out about who voted for the split and who voted against it. How many public schools genuinely supported staying together? If the number is very, very minimal, then I think the private schools have some legitimacy to looking about breaking off, because they've had 3 years to consider this, and the needle didn't move. Not only did it not move 63% 3 years ago to split, 60% this time around, but they added 3 more sports. So they're saying, we don't want to compete with you in anything. They being the publics, because the perception is that the privates had the advantage, not the public schools, based on enrollment, based on where they can draw from, based on tuition breaks that some get, and so forth. So this is no longer just a football issue. 12 championships in sports, please. And the reason that privates should consider breaking off is because they're basically being told, we don't want you. Go do your own thing. That's what this is. And it's happening in 4 sports now. And by the way, rest assured that the only reason it hasn't happened in a sport that Brian is close to, volleyball, is because the public schools need the private schools in that sport because of participation, because of scheduling. That's why I don't hear anybody screaming about Mount Carmel and St. Joseph's winning every state championship in volleyball over the past, 7, 8 years? Yeah. Nobody's complaining about that, or complaining about Brother Martin winning wrestling for the last 4 years, or complaining about Catholic High winning track and field for the last 4 years. Why? They don't care about those sports, and they need private schools to compete. Is that equitable? And then the start times. Private schools get the shaft there. They're outnumbered 3-1. So at some point you have to take account of yourself and say, am I better off letting them tell me what to do and when I can do it, or better off doing it myself? That's why I say maybe. If they can't get a satisfactory answer in the next 5 to 6 months, they should break off and start their own organization. When we continue in just a moment, college sports and more as we continue with sportsNOLA.com.